Hello everybody, welcome back to my RC plane channel. I'm James, continuing on with my Balsa USA Stingray 120 build. Okay, if you've been following along with me on this build, you know that I've been working on this plane for several months. But now I'm at the point where I get to cover the plane. And I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be using a Monokote covering film, and it's going to be red, white, and blue. And I'm going to start with the wing in this video. I want to finish up the wing. I don't think I'll be able to get to the fuselage in this video. So the next video will be part 2 of this, and it will be the fuselage. So Monokote is a covering film that has been around for a long time. It was originally produced by a company called Top Flight. Now Top Flight, like a lot of RC plane companies, went out of business a while back. And my understanding is that parts of their company were purchased by other hobby companies or other distributors, and they continued to make the Monokote. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I read that on a couple forums the other day. So the thing is this Monokote may not be available forever. And again, I don't know if it's still being produced now or if there's just a large supply of it still available and you can still purchase it. I've never had a trouble finding it, so I'm happy for now that I can still get it. Now there are other brands out there, and there are other brands that actually don't exist anymore. Things like, we used to have one called Solartex, and I think that one is no longer available. I think there's some other ones. There's one called Ultracote, and there's a few other ones. So in any case, if you can't buy Monokote, or if you don't like Monokote, because some people don't like it, you know, personal preference, there are other options out there. Okay, well, in order to apply this, you obviously need an iron, and I have a few examples here. So I have a couple that I've purchased. This one right here is my original one, going all the way back to way back 1980s. This is a Thunder Tiger iron. And then I recently purchased this one. This one's off of eBay used. This is a Tower Hobbies iron. And the thing about these is that, yeah, these are sort of like hobby brands, but if you look online, you'll find you can just purchase these small irons like this. I don't think that these are anything special. They use irons like this for a lot of different applications, a lot of different sort of things. So they're not made just for, you know, applying coating material for your airplanes. They make these small irons for all kinds of stuff. So if you can't find one that is branded by a hobby company, just look around, you'll find other ones. So I have those, and then I also have a kind of a detail iron. It's got a smaller iron on it, I'll say. It's a little guy like that, you can kind of see. This one's by Hanger 9. And this is really nice because you can kind of get it in small corners and little crevices and such. I'll be using this one when I start covering the little canopy assembly I made here. All right, almost ready to go here with the covering, but let me go ahead and open this one up and we'll take a look at it. So it comes in these tubes. I guess these are 6 feet long by 2 feet wide tubes. So if you have a big plane, like this one has an 80-inch wingspan, I'm not going to be able to get one strip of Monokote. I'm going to have to do it in pieces. And then here it comes with this instruction sheet, and I'm carefully going to cut it away. And you pull the sheet off, and it's, you know, it's a very nice instruction sheet. So I really do hope that they keep making Monokote. I hope it's not that these aren't going to be a dinosaur like a lot of the other things in our hobby. But the instruction sheet gives you a couple methods. It tells you kind of some temperature ranges and different techniques for using it, and they give you 2 methods here, and they give you a bunch of hints down here in the bottom. Oops, down here. So if you've never done this before, you know, look at this, read this over, and practice. And then, that being said, I always have leftover Monokote. Probably a lot of us have leftover Monokote, so I have a scrap box like this of all kinds of little pieces. These colors came from that smoothie that I crashed. Still makes me sad. But in any case, it's nice to have a couple scrap pieces like this that you can use. And so keep all your pieces for repairs and such, because you are going to get little dings and cuts and things over the life of the plane. So, you know, keep all your little scraps and you just do a little patchwork with it. All right, and then here's the iron that I'm going to be using for this one. And again, it's my Thunder Tiger, and it has low and high settings. This is really old, so it's really not that adjustable. This one, you really just, I put it somewhere around 3/4 of a turn or so out. You have to sort of practice and figure out what the right temperature is, because it has to get really hot, but not too hot, because you can obviously melt the Monokote covering material. So what I like to do is I get a scrap piece of wood like this, and then I get some scrap pieces of Monokote. So once I get my iron going, I'll turn it on to where I think it needs to be, and then I'll just let it sort of sit there for a while, and let it sit for like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that's pretty good, and just to get it to be kind of stabilized. And then I'll try it out and on a couple practice pieces like this, and just see how it behaves, how it performs. Again, it's sort of hard to explain exactly how it's going to work. You're just going to have to play with it or work with it yourself if you haven't done this. But you're going to put this on and it will melt nicely and stick to it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Because what will happen is if it's not hot enough, it just won't stick, it won't melt, and will just kind of pop off easily. And if it's too hot, it'll crinkle up on you and stuff. So you have to find that sort of sweet spot. And I think pretty much every one of these irons is going to work a little bit differently, and it all probably depends on things like the temperature of the day and God knows what. So you just have to practice with it and figure out what the best setting is for you when you're doing this. All right, then the other thing that's going to happen, a couple things with the iron, is that mine's really clean. I clean it off with a solvent from time to time. I use acetone, because what happens is, even though this stuff has the pigment is on the underside of this stuff, as you're working out to the edges, what happens is you'll notice that some of that pigment will sort of run out or sort of like squeeze out when it's really hot, and it'll get, not only will it get on other colors, if you're using multiple colors, you'll get a little bit of that color on the other color, which you can clean off with alcohol or acetone, but you'll also get it on your iron itself. And then what will happen is, if I'm doing this orange and then I move over here to the white, for example, I could get a little bit of orange on here. So, and again, the best way to clean it off that I found is just to use acetone, and I think alcohol also, and it cleans up really, really easily. But you want to keep your iron clean. So do that before you start, and then in the process what you'll notice is you start getting little stuff on there, little globs and things. Turn it off, let it cool off, and then clean it off again, and then keep going. Okay, well, here we go. So again, the wing is going to be white, and then the upper part of the fuselage is going to be a dark blue. So because the wing has this piece kind of constructed onto it, which represents the upper part of the fuselage, I'm going to start here. I'm going to go ahead and apply my blue Monokote here, and then we'll come back and I'll do the white on for the rest of the wing. For the wing tips, or for the end plates for the wings, these are going to be red, and then the ailerons themselves are going to be white. One thing I like to do is, and you'll know this, a lot of people do this, and even when you buy a manufacturer like an ARF and such, the bottom of the planes typically look a little bit different than the top of the planes. They use different color patterns and such, because that helps you identify, kind of keep that situational or the orientation of the plane in the sky when you're looking up at it. To have something distinctive that tells you you're looking at the bottom or the top of the plane, it can be very helpful. So I like to do something like that by adding certain colors and in the color scheme to help me identify that when the plane's flying. So the very bottom of that plane, the bottom of my fuselage, is going to be red, and then the top of the plane, the fuselage, is going to be dark blue, and then, like I said, the wing and the lower half of the fuselage is going to be white. And then one thing you're going to note as I'm doing this is when I'm going from one color to the next, like this is going to be dark blue and then the wing's going to be white. There's going to be a seam here, or a place where those two colors come together. You want to overlap one onto the other, or basically the way I should have said that is you want to overlap the Monokote onto the neighboring surface a certain distance, and then you want to overlap it with the next color right up to it, and that way you prevent having like a little gap in here, so you don't want to see the wood underneath here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the blue on. I'm going to extend it out maybe a 1/4 inch or so outside of this, and then I'm going to come back and put the white on. And because this is a curved surface, and these are things you're going to pick up as you do this, you're going to learn this type of thing. Because this is a curved surface, I think I'm going to put a little strip of white first and kind of work it into this curve, and then I'll come back with the major sheet and just go on top of that. And by doing that, what you'll notice is by kind of doing these little overlap methods and applying smaller pieces to kind of these little areas where things are a little trickier like that, you can just kind of overlap and do this type of thing, and to get a nice kind of clean finish and have things really sharp up against each other without too much trouble. All right, actually I need to mention one last thing before we get going here is you'll notice that when you pull off the Monokote sheet, there's a little strip of clear plastic left over. Okay, that has no adhesive on it, so you need to trim that off when you're applying your Monokote, because that will not stick to the plane itself. The only thing that's going to stick is the color itself that you see. So when you cut your pieces, omit this little strip along here. All right, so my iron has been sitting here for a little bit, getting hot. So let me go ahead and give a little test run on a piece of scrap wood, and we'll see how it does here. There you go. It's maybe a little bit on the hot side, but that looks pretty good actually. I think that's pretty good. I may lower it just a little bit. So the one thing about Monokote, it's sort of like sanding. I use the term be everywhere at once. You don't want to concentrate on one area. Whatever surface you're working on, you want to kind of hit it evenly from different spots all around. So for this, for example, I'm going to attach it. I like to attach it on the kind of on the ends. So I'll attach it over in here. I'll attach it over here. I'll hold it the Monokote down. I'll attach it here. I'll attach it here, and then I'll start kind of going around the edges. And then I'll work in the middle and kind of do it that way. And that way it helps prevent, because if you don't do this, especially like on the wing, if you're not careful and you only do like one side, you can end up with sort of a crease that you have to work out, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So just, again, you'll see what I'm talking about when you do this if you've never done this before. For those of you who have done this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Alright, so that's going to be about it for this video. The next step in this build series, going to be moving on to covering the fuselage and the tail section. And then after that, we have maybe, a handful of steps left to complete the build. I got to do the hinge work. I got to hinge all the control surfaces. Got to put on the landing gear. And then what else? Got to put in the electronics and of course put the engine on. And yeah, we're getting really, really close. I am going to be assembling a Williams Brothers Pilot. I think that guy will fit in here somehow. Got to put them together and paint them and such, but that's what I'm going to use here. So once I get the Pilot finished, then I can go ahead and glue on the canopy, make that permanent. Okay, well, thanks again for watching my channel. I always appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.